We're excited to have Robert and Judith with us today. And both of them have an extraordinary history in being involved with social change and in doing work with relationships for many decades now. They've both agreed to join us to help us think about relationship in these times. They can place a lot of stress on us and the relationships that we're in, and to help us with resources, both for ourselves and our relationships, that can help us navigate these times. Judith, Robert, thank you for joining us.
We've got to switch computers because one screen is frozen here. So hold on.
Okay, so I'll just say something more as we work out this little shift. As we go along in today's session, there'll be many moments that are experiential, and Judith and Robert will be asking you to really be with the experience. And then in between those moments, we'd love to invite you to continue to share questions, thoughts that you have as we go along. And I just want to say, Robert, Judith, thank you for pulling off like a near seamless transition between two different computers. And with that, I'll just pass it over to your wonderful hands.
Great. Thanks, Aaron.
We have learned, we have a love-hate relationship with Zoom at this point. We spend a lot more time on it than we used to. And it's wonderful with those occasional desires to destroy it. Okay, so we want to use this time to look at the impact of these times that we're in, the COVID times, on relationship. We want to offer you some principles and best practices for how to be in relationship. By the way, yes, we specialize in, we've been married for 50 years, and obviously it's have a lot of interest in couple relationships, but the principles and practices we're offering today, they actually work for all relationships. Parent and child relationships, close friend relationships, boss relationships. So we'll often use examples from the couple world, but I think you'll see that the practices and principles all apply equally.
Can I just take a moment, since we can't see everybody, but for those we can see, can we just see how many of you are actually engaged in a primary couple marriage partnership? Can I just see raise hands of those? We have a sense. Yeah, looks like somewhere at third to half. Yeah, great, thank you.
Yes, and if you and your partner answer that question differently, you need to come to a special workshop. Okay. Yes, we'd like you to pick a relationship to work on today that can kind of practice with the various practices. If you are in a couple relationship, we suggest, work with the couple relationship. If you're not currently in a primary relationship, then what's another relationship that has been impacted, perhaps in some stress, particularly during this particular time, that would be useful to practice throughout the day with, throughout the seminar with. So our suggestion is pick one relationship to work with. If you're in a couple, pick that. If not, choose which relationship you'd like to work on today. And that will get more benefit, I think, out of the meditations and the principles.
What we found is that if we don't pop around from one relationship to another, that the development of the practices will give you a more full experience and understanding of how these may be applied to any relationship. So that's why we're encouraging pick one. And particularly, as Robert said, a couple relationship, if you are in one, if you're living with someone where there's some challenges and you'd like to improve the quality of it, or if not, anyone really in your life who's important to you, where you feel like, boy, if I could dial this up, if I could shift this and how I feel and am in relationship with this particular person, if I could do that, I would like it. Okay. So why don't we just take a moment to have folks do that? So let's just take a moment. Doesn't need to be long. Just check and see who shows up in your mind. And for anyone who has challenges with commitment, this commitment is only for 1 hour. So you're good. Okay. Go ahead. You want to come back in, please?
Okay. So we don't need to describe how much stress there's been in our environments. There have been really multiple stressors. I mean, obviously, there's the disease itself and trying to keep ourselves safe, but also the impact for many of us on loss of income, political and social unrest, social isolation at different times, significant changes in lifestyle. Some of you have children now living at home. Some of you find yourself with your partner or your roommate, suddenly you're living in a co-working space. The boundaries between our work life and the non-work life start to get very diffuse. There's not a lot of boundary anymore. All these things put stress on relationships. So the stress on the outside always tends to create stress on our relational systems. Most relationships have some degree of challenge, some degree of difficulty. I would say in 50 years of marriage, we've experienced better weeks and harder weeks, a few better years and worse years.
I would say so.
Yeah. And those have actually been very fruitful in terms of our development, but the relationships have them, particularly close relationships, always have some of these challenges, some areas where stuff gets generated, where challenges arise for us. And what we find is that when there's external stress, stress always puts stress on a system. A relationship is a system. And any place where there are weaknesses in the system, fractures, complications in the system, when you add the stress from the inside, it like turns the heat up. It turns the dial up on those internal stresses in the system. And so that's why we thought this would be a particularly useful time to take a break from your lives and turn to your relationships and see where those stresses come into being and how do we work creatively with them? How do we bring consciousness, to have more consciousness about our relationships and how to be good with it?
Yeah, and we're also going to be sharing in a little while some of our best tips and practices, and we'll be doing some actual experiential work. So hopefully that will be helpful in getting some specifics and some movement in yourself as well. So we're going to, in a minute, I'm going to be leading you in a guided meditation, which I gather from all your work in other contexts is a familiar mode for most of you. So the premise here is that healthy relationships with others starts with a healthy relationship with ourselves. That's fundamental. And if we think about the world as it's a mandala of different relationships. So we're going to start our program with really looking at our relationship with ourselves. Most of us tend to be pretty tough on ourselves. At least to one degree or another. We're constantly looking, where's the self-improvement we've worked with, and here you guys, most of you are signed up for well-being and how do I grow and how do I become more conscious? And sometimes that can translate both as that wonderful aspiration, but also as a way of being tough and self-critical. I'm never doing enough. We all have triggers. We all have a history of our childhood, of our emotional and mental and energetic, what we would call psychologically our conditioning. It's kind of like how our mental neural patterning gets set emotionally. We form relationships and attachments more or less well in childhood. We carry more or less degree of trauma. So all of us, we human beings are this amazing, wonderful kind of mixed bag of all this great stuff. And then complications. Life would be easy, a friend said, if it weren't for human beings. It's like if we didn't have our humanness. And yet, certainly in my experience, and I think our shared experience, this notion that we're here to grow. We're here to learn. And it's like any good story, the content, the stuff of our learning comes from within us. And we often have a tendency to turn away from the difficult parts, the parts that are hard, the parts that we don't want to remember, the parts that we don't like about ourselves. And where we're going to start in just a minute, when I have you close your eyes, is cultivating that quality of compassion, of awareness of the challenges, what I like to call our holy human imperfections, perfectly imperfect. And it's like those imperfections, those places where we're challenged, they're actually the doorway into real growth and transformation. because the places that work, that we like, that everybody else likes, that are successful, you know, they're kind of working. But it's those places where it's snarly, where it hurts, it's scary. Our behaviors are not as skillful as they might be, our view towards ourselves. So that's where we're going to go, is first with a practice of settling and bringing compassion to ourselves. So friends, if you could just sit comfortably, feet on the floor, or if you happen to be sitting on the ground, that's great. And gently close your eyes. A favorite poem from the Persian poet Rumi. This human being is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. She may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door, laughing, and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. And we take a moment before we do drop into the meditation to dedicate our practice, to dedicate our commitment to our own holding and healing, to the holding and healing of the greater whole. Understanding that our work on ourselves translates into how we show up with other people and with the many challenging conditions of our lives. And bringing your awareness to your breath without needing in any way to fix it, change it, deepen it. Just awareness, tracking the beautiful, life-giving flow of breath. Our body, in its wisdom, nurtures and feeds us every moment. Breath coming in, turning and flowing out.
Keep it to 4 more minutes.
And breathe the energy in as a nourishing, warm light, a golden light or delicious golden honey. And as you breathe that in, imagine and sense and invite the energy that tends to get stuck up in our heads to just flow down like that thick, beautiful honey might if you were pouring it right down through the throat, through the heart, into your belly, filling you with warmth and golden light. Letting your throat soften and just, you might even, I like to do this, but if you wanted just a gentle touch on your throat and just a syllable of sound of releasing any holding. And then your hand, a loving hand right to your heart where you may be carrying hurt, grief, fear. And let that hand and let your intention tell your heart, I'm here. Here I am. You're okay. And if there's a sound that would naturally want to just be expressed, and as we just let go, release some of that contraction and holding. And then if you wish, bring your hand down to your belly, to the solar plexus, to the lower belly, wherever you feel any sense of holding or tightness or protection. And let the breath fill like you could actually feel your hand moving out with the inhale. And just gently releasing as you exhale. No effort, just that natural, beautiful filling of life and release. Each moment of receiving, the next moment of surrender, letting go. And imagine yourself connected, as you are, my friends, right down into the earth herself. Feel roots right from the core of your being, through the soles of your feet, through your pelvis. Imagine beautiful, deep roots heading into Mother Earth. Feel her there, this powerful, beautiful being that is the source of our life. And in your mind's eye and through your body, feel that support coming up to meet you, to hold you in connection, in safety. Really rest, letting that head energy continue to filter down through the body, through the roots into the earth. That fundamental sense of being securely held. And now into this energy field, which is available to you in just a moment, at any moment. Just this turning, just this invitation. Invite or call into your awareness the particular person that you have chosen to work with today. Sense them right here. Imagine them sitting right in front of you. And from this relaxed and more easeful seat, connected to breath and awareness, secure and present, allow yourself to sense being the guest house and being a place of curiosity and welcome. And notice now all the mental, energetic thought forms, emotional reactions, physical reactions that arise in you when you sense this person. Some of these may be very positive. Others of these may be quite challenged, and every place in between. And notice what it's like to not have control, to not be able to control them, certainly, or yourself, that you get triggered, you get tight, you might get snippy or withdrawn in whatever particular way you try to take care of yourself. And with breath, remembering, re-inviting security, feeling safe, feeling held. Become the nurturing arms that hold you and your challenges with love and compassion. Imagine holding yourself in all your beautiful, loving, and complicated humanity in the same way a loving parent would hold a child. Imagine beaming love, acceptance, unconditional, positive regard about your own beauty and capacity. Being your own guest house to welcome all aspects of your humanness. And intend love and compassion. Know that you can be both giver and receiver of this. And that as you source yourself in this beautiful flow of loving compassion, of grounded connectedness, of worthiness and well-being, that this is and can be the source of how you regard others and how you show up with all the circumstances of your own life and in our world.
And when you're ready, please open your eyes. Thank you, Judith. So we're going to offer over the course of our time now, as we turn towards relationship, 4 practices. Again, we invite you to practice with the person in the relationship you've chosen to work with, but these can be used really with any relationship. Maybe the first one is an obvious practice. It's to actually invest in the relationship. You know, sometimes we can start to think of a relationship as being a thing, like a possession, like I have a relationship. Actually, what we have is relating. We have the actual experience of being connected to a human being. That's the thing that we're cherishing. And it turns out that relationship is like a garden. It needs to be watered. It needs to be nurtured. And if we're not giving into the relationship, we won't be able to draw the beautiful gifts that are available to us in relating. And so when we're tired or stressed, it's easy to start giving the relationship a short thrift. It's, you know, when you have a work deadline, it becomes kind of obvious. I have to complete this by Monday, but it feels like, okay, the relationship's just here. It'll be here for us. But actually it requires our attending to it, our nurturing it. It requires that we notice where the kinks and where the things are developing, where something's off, where there's a contraction, where the energy is not flowing. And those require attending. They require our best attention to give to it. And so particularly in this time of COVID, when more stress is coming in, the relationship actually needs more tending, more of our conscious attending to help it to flower, to help it to nourish. And so,
I'll stop it. You're done.
Well,
I do want to say something then. You know, often, especially when you've got busy people and all the added stressors we are all aware of, we start to think of it like, oh, it's a big project to connect. And really what we want to propose to you is it doesn't, if we keep the fabric healthy, it doesn't actually take a big deal, which then we want to avoid because we don't have the energy and we don't have the time. It's just those moments of, like, for us, it would be, oh, good morning, I love you. Have a good day. I'll see you at dinner. You know, it might just be that, or a text to someone you care about, thinking of you, hope you're doing okay, let's check in tomorrow. Whatever. It doesn't have to be the big deal that then becomes overwhelming.
People often ask us, you know, what's your secret? I'm not sure we have a secret, but we have been together 50 years and our relationship is still living and thriving and growing. And this fundamental practice of actually prioritizing it among the many other priorities in life and continually tending, you know, has been a lot of what has worked for us. So I'm going to offer you a little reflection. I wouldn't say it's a meditation. It's more like an inquiry or a reflection. Probably useful to close your eyes. And this one will be completely thinking about this person that you're in relationship with. And maybe I'm going to ask you a question which may be obvious, but how much do you value this relationship? How important is this relationship and this human being to you? You know, we used to work with people who were dying in the early days of hospice, and sitting with people who were dying, I don't recall ever hearing people saying, gee, I wished I worked more. People often reflect back on the people that they love in their lives and, I wish I had tended more, given more to this relationship. And so as you look back over these last months, how are you tending? How are you prioritizing tending to this relationship? Yes, it's a question of time, but as Judith mentioned, it's also a quality of attention. They can be short moments, but these relationships need tending. They need to be tuned like a musical instrument, to be nurtured, to be refined, particularly in these challenging times. And so not at all any sense of judging, just simply noticing, witnessing, being curious. How have I been prioritizing this relationship during these months? Have I been tending to the things that feel off as well as investing in the things that feel good? If we own a bike or a car and we start noticing strange noises and maybe the brakes don't work as well as it did, yeah, if we don't pay attention to those, they typically get worse. And the same things that might be a little off, those squeaks in our relationship, sometimes we like, I don't want to look at that right now. What I've noticed over 50 years is when I don't look at them, they rarely get better by themselves. So have there been some of those kind of tweaks or noises or little places that feel off in the relational field? Have I been tending to them? And what's the quality of energy I've been bringing to this partnership, to these relationships? And if I were to make a change, because we get to be born and reborn again, starting today, if I wanted to make some shift in the quality and quantity and nature of how I am tending to this relational field between me and this other, what might that look like to bring more, better, more frequent, and a different quality of attention? Both the attention to nurture the things that feel good and to attend to the things that feel like they need tending. What would it be like to choose, starting this moment, to bring more of this practice?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you might even think, rather than the more, which can be a little overwhelming, maybe one specific thing that in this moment you feel like, gosh, I've got it in me, I could. And just let yourself see if something bubbles up for you on that.
Okay, friends, and bring your attention back.
Great. So practice 2. This is important. It's really important. And we often frame this as just 100% personal responsibility, radical personal responsibility, advanced personal responsibility, because as we do our own work and work with people, what we notice is there are layers of how refined we can be in taking responsibility for our contribution. We said relationship is a system. So a system has different energies feeding it. You may have noticed, especially in the relationships where there's real challenge, that we spend a lot of time, and we're quite brilliant at what the other person is doing wrong and how if they were just different, things would be cool. It would be great then. Any of you, those of you whose hands I can see, sound familiar? Can I see hands? Right. It's like, if he would just be this way or not do this or not do that, then we wouldn't have a problem. The trickier part really is turning our attention to ourselves. And we may be anywhere from completely blind to our contribution to we have a pretty good psychological, oh, well, that's because in my childhood I didn't feel valued and so I'm sensitive, but the other person, right? So what we're going to do right now is really look at how we can work on actually the only part of that relational system that we have any control or power. You may notice that you've put a lot of energy and attention in trying to advise, often very wisely, your friend, your life partner, a sibling, a parent, a child. It rarely actually changes the other person and often sends them into a resistance to us. But when we work on our own energy, our own sense of responsibility, we start to shift the energetic field. And that creates an opening for change to actually happen. So that's that notion. One person, one different behavior, one different belief or attitude can actually start to shift a relational system. So I have one personal example of story that I've had. So we're going to look at our stories. So one example that I have from our life is the story of Robert is so absorbed in his work and in his head in general that he doesn't notice anything else that needs tending around our home. And then I've got my whole, look, see an example of that, an example of that. And then over years, I can build a real case around that. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I can do that. So the turnaround to that would be along these lines. And again, both stories, but one is a story that creates damage, makes me unhappy, makes him wrong. A turnaround would be, Robert's contributing so much, most often several more hours a day of scheduled professional work than I have. I'm happy to pick up some of the slack. I appreciate what he's doing. And if I've got a little more spaciousness in my day, it's really okay. Or if I'm just someone who notices the visual field more, it's okay.
In taking responsibility, we'll talk about behavior. There are different things we can do that are different behaviors, but really partly it's what's in our mind. I like to think I'm in a relationship with a human being. To a large degree, we're in relationship with our own mental constructions. I'm in a relationship with my picture of this person, and I'm the storyteller. I'm the one who created the story. I direct the play, and I forget that. So, Judith has she's very spontaneous, which is great, except the story I build is like, I can't make plans with this woman. It's like whatever plan we make, when the moment comes, it's going to be what she feels like. That drives me crazy. And I can kind of get very involved and create a whole drama and set of feelings on a relationship. It's not the truth of who she is. It's my story about it. And then I derive meaning about it too. It's like, well, she doesn't care about me and my plans because otherwise she wouldn't change them. So that's not who she is. That's my mental construction of my wife called Judith. I have choice about that. And a much more ennobling story, it's actually part of what drew me to her in the first place. I was a college student. I was very disciplined. Here was this incredibly spontaneous being that I adored because of her spontaneity. And in fact, it's the beauty of who she is. The fact is that she's very connected to life in this moment and how she feels, not these fixed plans in her head. And actually, this is a wonderful quality. And so that's as I change the mental construction, we can also look at changing our behavior, because I can't always control how I feel, but we have a lot of choice about how we behave and what comes out of our mouth. And so at that second construction where I'm appreciating Judith's spontaneity, I can make different behavioral choices. Like when I thought I was doing this, and she says with this incredibly delightful joy, would you like to? But it wasn't my plan. I could actually choose to say, sure, sweetheart. I'll probably be happier in the end.
I also get a lot of shit done, by the way.
You do. And I actually don't always fall over everything on the floor without looking. So
You don't.
Sometimes I notice when I'm not lost in my head.
Great. So what we're wanting to do in our few moments here is see if we can actually help steer you into creating an actual awareness and shift. So we're going to do a quick experiment. Recall the relationship you're working with that you've chosen. And right now, choose one aspect, one kind of repetitive pattern that is a trigger for you, that's less than satisfying. One challenge that you're having in the moment. And most often those are challenges that are repetitive, but maybe not. Okay, so take a moment. Relationship, one particular arena of challenge. Okay, and really identify that so you know what you're looking at. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to see what you might do with that. And Robert and I think we'll do a little demo first. But we're going to see, okay, if I were taking 100% responsibility, if I wasn't waiting for the other person or judging the other person or feeling upset or frustrated with the other person or thinking how much happier they'd be if they did what I said, what might I do? Because that's where, as you all know, that's where our power to impact actually resides. So we're going to demonstrate this a little bit. So Robert, what's the relational situation that you would like to try to shift?
Let's imagine that I have a partner that they're sort of absorbed in their work a lot of the time. And I'm wanting more connection. I'm wanting more time together. I'm wanting more intimacy. And my partner seems like they're working more than I would like.
Or they're working, or they're scanning the news all the time, or whatever.
And I could be very frustrated about that. What we're looking at now was, okay, if I were taking 100% responsibility for shifting the system, what might I do?
And we're going to show you how we would do that in an interactive way. You can do that with yourself in a minute when we turn attention to you interactively, or you could use writing. You could write down on a paper or on your computer. So, Robert.
One of the tricks is I have to say the first thing that comes to mind. This is a brainstorm. We're not saying you're going to do any of these things. Again, this just for you to kind of open your frame of thinking out of the frame of kind of like, I don't have choice, to like, I have agency, and what can I do with this agency? She's going to ask me this question 6, 7, 8 times. Some of these ideas may be crazy, but that's the point. The point is to kind of get us out of what seemed possible 1 minute ago into a different world where creation becomes possible. So I'm not going to censor myself. Actually, Judith has this wonderful thing. She'll say sometimes before she talks, I reserve the right to disagree with myself, which means that she's just trying to kind of get her thoughts out and her creativity out. So I'm going to literally say whatever comes to my mind when she asks me the question again and again.
Okay. So Robert, if you were taking 100% responsibility for this situation of wanting more connection, what might you do?
I would try to see if I can negotiate kind of an end to work time. Is it 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, but to actually agree that there's a time where we'll turn the computers off and something else will happen.
Okay. And Robert, if you were taking 100% responsibility for trying to shift this situation, what might you do?
Well, I would try to entice her with things I know she likes. Like I know she likes like incredibly these foreign films that she really likes. And so I'd have a couple prepared, and rather than kind of like pulling on her to stop working, I would invite her to something I know she really enjoys.
Okay, Robert, if you were taking 100% responsibility, what else might you do?
Well, when she's at the computer and I really want to be with her, I would just kind of come over and sit on her lap and get between her and the computer and start kissing her in a very sexy way and try to distract her from work.
That would probably work. Okay, you get the idea. Okay. Good.
Yeah. So we're going to actually do this with you now. If you have something to write with, that's great. If not, just make a mental note. If you're sitting in the room with your partner, don't say things out loud. Because the whole point is you're not committing to do things. You're trying to arrange a whole array of possible things you might do as part of a brainstorm.
Right. And often we short circuit ourselves. It's like, I don't know if I can do that. Maybe I don't have the time. Maybe I don't really want to. So as we've said, This is just taking the lid off in the as if creative mode. So
we'll ask you the question again and again, probably like 7, 8, 9 times. Don't censor yourself. See all the things that one might do.
Right. And we're going to try to create a decent middle ground rhythm. But, if you're still writing while we're asking again, just trust yourself and your own rhythm in this, please. You can't track everybody there. So call the person to mind, call the relational challenge that you want to address, and ask yourself, if I were taking 100% responsibility for this situation, this dynamic, this relationship, what might I do? And I'm going to ask it again, and maybe once more, but I think you get the sense of it. So I'm just going to do it 1 or 2 more times. But now you just keep on. You write your answer, you think of your answer, you ask yourself again. Okay, if I were taking 100% responsibility for shifting this dynamic or doing my best, what might I do? And I think we'll just give you another minute or so here to generate ideas. Okay.
Okay, so hopefully that gives you the idea. This turnaround, this switch from feeling at the effect of a relationship to that I have agency is transformational, truly. It has truly been one of the most important things we've learned in teach and relationship is being able to make that shift.
And one of our mentors years back would do this thing when you're pointing at the other person, just turn it back to yourself. Like, that's where your power is. That's where your agency and sovereignty is. And you might, when we're off this call, just pick one of these things and something like, oh, I'm going to really experiment with that. So consider doing that when we're done.
Okay. Our third practice, very, very simple. It's authenticity. It's being willing to bring the fullness of your own guest house, the fullness of your heart to a relationship. Very often when we're new in relationships, it's a time where we love to tell everyone our secrets and what we're feeling and about our lives. What happens over time often is that we start holding back parts of ourselves. It doesn't feel comfortable. It doesn't feel safe to share certain parts of ourselves, maybe feelings we're having, uncomfortable feelings. Sometimes it's hard to even to hold back the love that we have. And so the thing is, if relationship is a living field of energy, that it's not a possession, when we choose to hold back parts of ourselves, we're literally taking our energy out of relationship. We're pulling it out of the relational field. We're only in relationship to the extent that we're willing to bring ourselves into relationship. And so this practice of truth telling from the heart, of heart sharing in a relationship, is one of the fundamental things that brings life into relationship. And so, yeah, so we're going to give, just again in meditation, a little sense to kind of see, as we look at this relationship, what have I been holding back? Where have I not been bringing the fullness of my guest house, the fullness of my love, the fullness of my sadness, the fullness of my fears, not just about the relationship, but about life. Because the more that we're willing to take that risk to open our hearts and bring it into the relational field, the more the field is filled with life and the more connection we actually have with another human being. So it's be a very brief meditation.
And by the way, what we're going to have you do right now, we're not suggesting you then go blurt all this out to the person. This is so you can know yourself. And then there are skills and arts of really evaluating what is useful, what really serves to say.
Okay, close your eyes, please. And see this person's face in front of you, the person that you're working with in the seminar today. See their face. And then if you would take, and again, in real life, you would not do this, but for this meditation, you're going to completely take the censor off, that normal censor we keep between what we think and feel and what comes out of our mouth. And for just these few minutes of this meditation, we're going to completely open our hearts to this person. And it's the fullness of the heart, the fullness of the Ruby's guest house. It's the love you have for this person, the fears you have for this person, the fears you have of this person, the frustrations you have with this person, all of it without censoring. And so in your mind's eye now, imagine doing that. Imagine, and so like literally say the words now. Say them in your heart and your heart mind. Everything that's in there, uncensored. And not just about this person, but about you and this moment in your life and what you feel. But literally hear the words and feel them as if you're kind of saying them, sub-vocalizing them, as if you're allowing your heart, uncensored, to pour open. And keep doing that. Literally hear, say the words internally without censoring the whole guest house of your heart with this person, about you. Noticing those places where you tend to hold back and shy away, and open in there also. As if you're going to be more open than you have ever been in this space, in this sacred space of your heart, to open your heart to them and offer them all that's there. The feelings you like and the feelings you don't like, that you wish you didn't have. It's all part of the guest house of this relation, in this relational field. And so now as we bring the meditation to a close, imagine what it'd be like to bring more of this into the relation, to actually sit down with your partner or the person you're living with or your child, or whoever it is that you're working with today, and to open your heart more fully, to take more risk, to bring the rawness, the vulnerability of your heart with less censoring. What would that be like? open your eyes. Just time to do it.
Great. We're going to do in a moment one more guided meditation that will help us get into cultivating empathy for the person you're working with. But just before we do that, here's the fourth practice, which we're not going to spend a lot of time with. Know and accept who you're with. You know, we're all who we are. You know, if we watch our friends and parents and ourselves over time, yeah, we grow, we change, we develop, but the essence of our being, the essence of our personality structure, our habits, especially as we get older, are sort of the way they are. And the more acceptance and ease and spaciousness we can cultivate, both for ourselves, but also for those we're in life with, so that we're not having to micromanage and judge everything. It's like, oh, that's just Robert. That's just my friend Ginny. That's my mom. Oh, that's kind of how my daughter's like. The more we can cultivate that, the more ease and acceptance there is in our hearts and in the field of relationship.
And part of the way we can do that is to have greater empathy for this human being that we share this part of our life with. And so close your eyes one last time. And see the face one last time of this person that you're in relationship with. In a moment, I'm going to count to 3. I'm going to ask you to do a really unusual thing. I'm going to ask you literally to step inside the body and become this other person. Don't think about it. Just want to give you the instruction. Just do it. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Step inside their body. And now as you breathe what it's like to be inside their body. Notice you're in a very different body. This body may be a different gender or not, maybe a different age. Body may be a different size, but you are distinctly in a very different body. And so in your mind's eye, in your imagination, imagine you're this person and you're getting up and walking, and feel what it's like to walk as this person walks. Even imagine what's it like to walk down a city street or out in a field and country road, like you're walking in this body into the world, and feel what it's like to stride through the world as this person walks, because they walk and feel a very different way as they walk in the world. And feel what it's like to walk as this person walks. And as this person, feel what gives them joy. What really gives this person joy in their life? But you're feeling it now as they feel it. So I'm asking you as this person, what gives you joy? What lights you up? What makes you feel like life is worth living? And how do you experience joy? And as this person, what makes you anxious? What are your fears? What keeps you up at night as this person? And how do you feel that? How do you experience and manage your fear as this person? Feel it from the inside, how they feel fear, what scares them. And as this person, what do you long for? What do you wish for as much as anything? What are your dreams, your hopes as this person? And feel it as they feel it. What you long for, what you dream of, what you hope for, as much as anything. As this person, what are the burdens that you carry? The responsibilities that kind of weigh you down, that weigh on you? What are the burdens that you carry, and how do you hold and feel those as this person? And as this person, what makes you mad? What makes you angry, frustrated? And how do you experience that as this person? And as this person, every human heart carries loss and grief. Every human heart carries this. And so as this other, what are the losses that you carry, the grief that you carry in your heart, the pain, the losses that you carry? And how do you hold that and experience that? And now I want you to imagine that you are this person and you're in bed and you wake up in the morning. How do you greet the day? How do you greet the day as this person? And as you walk through a day in this person's life, and do that now, kind of imagine the activities that they do each day. You're living their activities and feeling their life as they feel it. And all of a sudden, as this person, you come face to face with an important person in your life. And all of a sudden, you are them looking at yourself. You are seeing yourself through their eyes in this moment and feeling inside of them how they feel when they see you and be with you. And so as this other, now you're this other, noticing yourself, notice how you feel loved by this person. Notice how they experience your love, as feel it from inside them, how your love touches them. And then as this other, notice how you challenge them. Notice what's hard for them about you and the relationship. Feel it through their eyes and feel it through their heart. The challenges you bring to them. In what ways who you are or how you behave or don't behave is hard or challenging for them. And just for another moment, as this other, anything else that's important as you feel life as they feel it in this particular moment. In this particular moment also of this COVID time, as this other, how you meet your life, what you aspire for and what challenges you in this time of COVID, as this other, how you feel it as them. In a moment, I'm going to count from 3 to 1. When I reach 1, you're going to come back into your own body. 3, 2, 1. Come back into your own body. And lastly, in your mind's eye again, now as yourself, look at this person that you've been working with over the course of the webinar and see them and notice what feels different, if anything, having taken a ride, a journey through their own life, through their own heart. What feels different as you look at them now in this moment? And you can open your eyes.
Great. And so friends, while Robert was leading that, I'm looking at the chat. Certainly if anyone wants to just share on the chat anything that kind of came to you, like an awareness or something that came up for you during that last meditation, that'd be great. I've noticed one question on there that I will speak just a minute, which is, would you speak about how changing behavior retrains the brain patterning that causes the underlying trigger? So fascinating field of what we call neuroplasticity. Of, our brain gets formed and our thought patterns and our emotional conditioning gets formed over a lifetime. And it's sort of like the more we practice those pathways, that thought, that emotional, that energetic pathway, it's like the grooves get deeper and deeper and deeper. So one of the ways we can work effectively with shifting our mental, emotional, neurological patterning is it's almost like, well, I live in Colorado, so we go cross-country skiing. And the metaphor that I use, but you can think of your own if this doesn't work for you, is like, I want to pick my skis up out of the well-worn tracks and I want to shift them. And so shifting a mental view of things or intercepting in some way a patterned response, I stick my skis in a new pathway and it's kind of sticky and it feels unfamiliar and it's uncomfortable and I might fall over. But if I keep on picking my skis up am practicing a new behavior or practicing a new concept or way of viewing the other person or way of viewing myself, after a while, I'm going to actually be making new grooves. And it's easier and easier to catch myself up. I'm in that old groove. I know that groove. Oh, that goes down into a ravine where I feel horrible. The other person feels horrible. And I get really stuck. So I'm not going to go there. I'm going to go here. And the more we practice that behavior, that mental, that emotional shifting, the more we are, in fact, retraining those trauma patterns so that we can feel more whole, more resourced.
I think to close, I think in this spirit of forming some new grooves, if you're with a partner, we're going to ask you to turn towards them. If you're not with a partner and you have some access to a way to write, we'd like to have you close one of our other practices, the practice of appreciation. We thrive with appreciation. We tend to shrink with criticism. And so if you're with a partner in the room, we're going to ask you to kind of exchange phrases, to look at each other and exchange phrases back and forth like this. I appreciate your eye for beauty. I feel like everywhere in our lives, you are seeing beauty, helping me notice beauty and creating beauty. And then you would.
I appreciate just your generous heart. Like you're so always available to give and give of yourself.
And so for just 2 minutes, for those of you that are in a room with your partner, to share those appreciations. For those of you that are not with the person in the room or not with the partner, whoever it is in your mind you've been working with, either kind of jot this down or kind of make a mental note of all the things you appreciate and make sure to share it with them sometime in the very near future. So we're going to give you 2 minutes to either write them down, make mental notes, or if you're in the room together, please turn towards each other and exchange those appreciations. And then
we'll make that 1 minute, if that's okay.
1 minute. 1 minute. So continue doing this after, because we want to get back to Aaron.
Yes.
So this could be a nice homework assignment if you don't have time to really fully do it now.
Okay, 1 minute.
He doesn't have a minute. He has to close. So it's okay, I think that's good.
The appreciations help to create the new grooves.
That's true. That's true. So I think we'll stop there. Take any of these friends and expand on them, infusing practices and your relationship with life. You have the power to shift things dramatically. So fun to be with you. Thanks for having us, Aaron.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Judith. It's been wonderful having the two of you join us. We're going to come back to that in just a quick second as well. Just a quick sharing for everyone. Next week will be the last in this particular format of the series of webinars we've been doing. And we're really, really excited to have Parker Palmer and Sharon Salzberg joining us for that. And they'll be reflecting on a number of the things that have come along through the series to this point. Robert, Judith, you guys have been absolutely amazing. And I think one of the things that we can do, and just seeing the appreciation that's there in the group, maybe what we could just invite as we come to a close today is just inviting people to turn on your mic and your camera as we dial out and just saying thank you and goodbye to Robert and Judith as a way just to express our appreciation. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you.
Thank
you
you
so much. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Really powerful.
Thank you so much, Robert,
Thank you.
Judith, Aaron, everyone.
Thank you. Very good.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
A lot of very nice
You all are
tips.
beautiful. Every one of you, beautiful. Every one of
Very
you.
transforming.
Beautiful, Monique.
Thank you, Robert and Judith.
Thank you. Blessings, everybody. Be well.